Life is a long journey full of challenges, where every success is built upon extraordinary efforts that often go unnoticed. We tend to admire the splendor without realizing that behind those dazzling lights lie silent sweats and tears. Join us as we explore 16 profound stories, uncovering the truth that the value of success lies not only in the destination but also in the journey of overcoming oneself. These stories are not just invaluable lessons but also powerful sources of motivation to help you persevere through life's challenges. Story 1: Joy or sorrow, happiness or suffering, all arise from the mind. Everything in life, whether good or bad, originates from how we perceive and think about it. The same situation can appear positive to one person but negative to another. It all depends on a single thought within the mind. Good and bad are born from the mind. The fact that one person sees good while another sees bad in the same situation shows that all distinctions stem from each individual's mind. Some things may seem like misfortunes, but when viewed from a different perspective, they reveal valuable opportunities. Conversely, what appears to be good can sometimes lead to unforeseen consequences. Everyday situations and lessons from the mind. The pothole road. A group of tourists complained upon seeing the road ahead filled with potholes and dust, refusing to proceed further. The guide smiled and said, "This is the Royal Avenue, once reserved for kings and nobles. Walking on this road is an experience of luxury and value." Hearing this, the group immediately changed their attitude. Not only did they eagerly continue, but they also took photos and proudly shared about this unique historical site. Defeat. An athlete, after losing a match, felt ashamed and discouraged, ultimately giving up their career. In a similar situation, another athlete saw an opportunity. He analyzed the strengths and weaknesses of his opponent and committed to rigorous training. As a result, in the rematch, he achieved a resounding victory, bringing pride to himself and his family. Getting lost. A man driving without navigation got lost. After spending an hour finding his way, he finally reached his destination. Instead of being upset, he felt happy. "I discovered a new route, met friendly people, and learned more about this place." Two travelers in the desert. Under the scorching desert sun, two travelers each had only half a bottle of water left. The first one despaired, believing he would die of thirst. In the end, he collapsed on the hot sand. The second one felt grateful for the water he had. Cherishing every drop, he kept going and safely escaped the desert. These examples illustrate: good or bad does not lie in the circumstances, but in how your mind perceives them. If you remain optimistic, every challenge becomes an opportunity. Conversely, if you are pessimistic, you bury yourself in misery. Maintain a positive, grateful, and open mindset. Life isn't always filled with sunshine, but if you learn to see the good in things, you will realize that life is full of wonders waiting to be discovered. Story 2: There's no such thing as instant success. Success is the result of relentless effort. During an inspiring seminar, the speaker stood on stage, captivating the audience with every gesture and word. The visuals and words displayed were precise and meaningful, contributing to a lively and impactful presentation. During the break, an attendee approached and said, "Sir, you are truly admirable. Your presence on stage is so captivating, and every word you say is profound and articulate." The speaker smiled and replied, "Would you believe me if I told you that I used to stutter as a child?" His response astonished everyone around. He continued, "To gain the confidence I have today, I spent thousands of hours practicing in front of a mirror. For every speech, I rehearsed it repeatedly and prepared for dozens of hypothetical scenarios. My success today isn't luck, it's the result of perseverance and effort." The success journey of a sales director. Sarah once started as an intern at a major automotive company. Watching her outstanding colleagues sell 4 to 5 cars daily, she admired them and assumed they were born geniuses. However, she soon realized that their success came not only from understanding every detail of each car, but also from thoroughly researching customer preferences. Determined to improve, Sarah worked tirelessly, taking psychology classes and studying every small detail of the cars. With her extensive knowledge and exceptional communication skills, she gradually became the top sales performer every month. Today, she is a highly respected sales director admired by many. The author who dedicated 10 years to writing. Emma, a brilliant writer, is widely recognized for her works that touch the hearts of readers. Many believe she has a natural gift, but few know that Emma spent over 10 years persistently writing, editing, and reading extensively every day. Her success is not a miracle but the result of a long journey of dedication and practice. Success is not something that comes overnight. It is the outcome of perseverance, continuous learning, and relentless effort. We often only see the shining moments of successful individuals, but fail to notice the years of hard work behind them. Nothing comes easy, but if you remain persistent, success will surely follow. Story 3: 11 Knocks and the Path to Success. One day, at a major recruitment company, King arrived to interview for a sales position. When it was his turn, he politely stood outside the director's office and knocked lightly twice. A voice from inside said, "Come in." King stepped in and politely greeted the director. However, the stern-faced director interrupted him. "I'm sorry, please step out and knock again." Surprised but composed, King stepped out and tried again. Yet, the director remained unsatisfied and asked him to repeat the action. After several attempts, King began to feel puzzled, wondering what he had done wrong. Instead of reacting negatively, he decided to keep trying, maintaining his patience and utmost politeness each time. On the 11th attempt, as King was about to knock again, the door suddenly opened. The director stood there, smiling, and shook his hand. "Congratulations, you've got the job. This role requires an extraordinary level of patience, and you are the only one who knocked more than 10 times without giving up." King's story reminds us of Napoleon, the great French general, who once said, "The glory of life does not lie in never failing, but in rising every time we fall." Similarly, Edison, the inventor of the electric light bulb, said, "I have not failed. I've just found 1,200 ways that won't work." Soichiro Honda, the founder of Honda, experienced countless failures before his success. He said, "Success is 1% achievement and 99% failure. But passion and perseverance helped me overcome it." The door to success never opens easily. Sometimes, we have to knock 10, 20, or even 100 times. The key is to never give up. Every act of patience brings us closer to our goals. Whether you are starting your career or facing challenges in work and life, patience is the key to overcoming obstacles. Failures are valuable lessons that make us stronger and more resilient. Remember, the brilliance of success shines only after enduring countless trials. Every successful person has faced hardships but never gave up. Their perseverance is what led them to greatness. Story 4: The Full Cup and the Lesson of Change. Long ago, there was a renowned teacher known for his wisdom and profound knowledge. One day, a young man, proud of his accomplishments, came to seek his guidance. The young man boasted endlessly about his achievements, speaking with great arrogance and self-satisfaction. The teacher silently listened and then smiled, saying, "Before we talk, let's have a cup of tea." The teacher began pouring tea into the young man's cup. The cup filled quickly, but he kept pouring, letting the tea overflow and spill across the table. Alarmed, the young man exclaimed, "Master, the cup is already full. It can't hold any more." The teacher calmly replied, "Exactly. This cup is like your mind. It is filled with thoughts, prejudices, and self-satisfaction, leaving no room for anything new. If you wish to learn, you must first empty your cup." People are often limited by what they already know. We cling to past experiences, habits, or successes without realizing they may hinder our progress. Like the full cup, if we don't empty our minds, we will never be able to learn or embrace anything new. The potter and the lesson of letting go. One day, a student approached a renowned potter to learn the craft. Without saying a word, the potter handed the student a lump of clay. The student eagerly began shaping it, creating what he believed to be the most beautiful form he could. The potter observed the work and asked, "Can you make it better?" The student shook his head and replied, "Master, this is already the best I can do." The potter smiled, took the clay from the student, and kneaded it anew. Within minutes, he crafted a stunningly beautiful vase. The student watched in awe and realized that to truly learn, he needed to set aside his ego and be open to new perspectives and methods from his teacher. Story 5: The Value of the Ticket in Life. Mr. Kai and Mrs. Thursday, after more than 50 years of togetherness and countless hardships, looked back on their lives with pride as their children had grown to be successful and filial. To honor their parents on their golden wedding anniversary, the children gifted them a luxurious cruise trip on a first-class ship. Stepping onto the grand ship, Mr. and Mrs. Kai were filled with excitement. They marveled at everything, from the restaurants and pools to the entertainment areas. However, upon seeing the prices for services on board, their frugality got the better of them. Having lived a life of thrift, they decided to stick to sightseeing and eating instant noodles they brought along, thinking they would save a lot of money this way. Throughout the journey, they spent their days on the deck admiring the views or occasionally buying a few loaves of bread to stave off hunger. On the last day, Mr. Kai thought it would be a shame to come on such a trip and not try at least one meal on board. What would we even say about the food when we go home? Finally, the couple decided to indulge in a grand meal at the ship's restaurant, creating a memorable experience. After finishing the feast, Mr. Kai called the staff over to settle the bill. The young waiter smiled politely and asked to see their tickets. After checking, he said with surprise, "Sir, your first-class ticket includes all dining and entertainment services on board. Why haven't you used any of them this entire trip?" Mr. and Mrs. Kai were stunned. They realized that, for the entire journey, they had limited themselves simply because they didn't know the true value of their ticket. Their story mirrors the lives of many. Life is a journey, and each of us is given a ticket, our existence and capabilities. Yet, some people, despite holding countless opportunities in their hands, choose to eat instant noodles, living modestly and avoiding life's joys due to fear or ignorance of what they truly possess. Treasure your health, youth, and potential. Learn to enjoy life, explore new experiences, and share joy with those around you. Money and material possessions are not everything. The true value lies in how we embrace and appreciate the beauty around us. Whether your ticket is first class or economy, the key is to cherish and make the most of your journey. Life doesn't wait for anyone, and happiness belongs to those who live fully and seize their opportunities. Story 6: Only compassion can transform the heart. Buddhist teachings state that when a person cultivates compassion in their heart, this kindness not only moves people but can also harmonize with nature itself. The following story illustrates the transformative power of compassion. Story 1: The Monk and His Misguided Disciple. Master Kang Bao had a young disciple who often broke the monastery's rules. Every night, the disciple would secretly climb over the wall to sneak out and have fun. One night, the master discovered this but chose a very unusual way to handle it. That night, when the disciple returned, he unknowingly stepped onto his master's back, who had replaced the usual stool with himself. Realizing what had happened, the young man froze in fear, expecting a harsh rebuke. However, Master Kang Bao calmly said, "Your clothes are damp with dew. Go inside and change before you catch a cold." This gentle and caring response awakened the young man's conscience. From that day forward, he stopped sneaking out at night. This story exemplifies the profound influence of compassion, showing that kindness can touch even the most misguided hearts, inspiring them to change. Story 2: Venerable King Min and the Band of Thieves. Venerable King Min, after attaining the divine eye, traveled widely to spread the Dharma. One night, as he meditated in a forest, he overheard whispers nearby. A band of thieves, having just returned from a robbery, was dividing their loot in the woods. Upon noticing the venerable monk, the group panicked. Their leader commanded, "We must kill this man to keep our secret." Venerable King Min remained calm and said, "You may kill me if you wish, but even if you do, you cannot escape the consequences of your actions." Hearing this, the thieves hesitated. The leader asked, "Who are you to interfere with our business?" The venerable monk responded serenely, "I am a monk. I saw your wrongdoing and am here to offer advice. I will not report you to the authorities, but the law of karma will not spare you. I pity you, for the suffering you will face in the future will be devastating." These compassionate words stirred the thieves' conscience. They dropped their weapons, repented, and vowed to change their ways. Venerable King Min guided them to return the stolen goods to the villagers. From that moment on, they lived honest lives, and the villagers, deeply moved, embraced the Buddhist teachings. Both stories underscore the immense transformative power of compassion and kind intentions. Rather than cornering others with criticism and rejection, tolerance and love create pathways for redemption. Buddhism teaches, in this world, no one is so lost that they cannot find their way back, and no mistake is beyond correction. As long as kindness remains in the heart, Buddha nature will guide them home. The ability to transform others does not come from imposing authority or blame, but from boundless compassion, capable of changing even those who seem beyond hope. Story 7: Collecting Firewood and Facing the Flood, the Wise Response of a Novice Monk. The story below offers profound lessons on how to navigate life's challenges. Its values encourage us to reflect on how we face the difficulties in our lives. Once upon a time, two men found themselves in dire hunger, desperately needing help. A kind-hearted benefactor decided to aid them by offering each a gift. One received a fishing rod, and the other, a bundle of fresh fish. The first man, who received the fish, was overjoyed. He immediately grilled the fish and devoured them without a second thought. In his rush, he barely took time to enjoy the delicious meal, focusing only on consuming it as quickly as possible. Once the meal was finished, he had nothing left. Soon after, he fell back into poverty and hunger, unable to do anything further, and eventually succumbed to starvation by the pile of fish bones. Sadly, he had wasted the chance to secure a longer, more sustainable life, trading it for a fleeting moment of satisfaction. The second man, on the other hand, received the fishing rod. Although he was just as hungry as the first, he chose not to seek immediate gratification. He pondered over the gift and decided to be patient. With the rod in hand, he set out to find the coastline. The journey was not easy. He endured days of hardship and hunger, but he persevered. Finally, he reached the ocean, where he could fish and sustain himself. Not only did he secure a long-term source of food, but he also found a companion along the way, and together they thrived. Over the years, they built stable lives, with each having a home, starting families, and living in comfort and security. This tale illustrates that in life, there are those who focus solely on immediate gratification, seizing short-term pleasures. While such choices may bring momentary satisfaction, they rarely lead to lasting success. On the other hand, those who think ahead, exercise patience, and invest in long-term goals are more likely to achieve lasting fulfillment. This principle applies not only to personal life, but also to work, relationships, and every major decision we face. The story emphasizes that instant gratification is not always the right choice. Patience and careful planning before taking action are the real keys to success. While short-term rewards might be tempting, they often lead to missed opportunities for greater achievements. In life, we must learn to balance our ideals with practical reality, cultivating patience and staying focused on long-term goals rather than succumbing to immediate desires. Whether in life or work, we constantly face choices. The right choices are often the harder ones, requiring us to think critically, be patient, and persist through challenges to achieve sustainable success. This story of the two men serves as a reminder of the importance of patience and wise decision-making. It shows how one can overcome hardships and challenges to build a life of stability and prosperity. Story 8. Bowing the head is a form of wisdom. Those who know how to humble themselves are more likely to succeed. True wisdom, like a ripened ear of rice, bows its head. When the grains are empty, the stalks stand tall with pride. But once the grains are full and firm, they bend in humility. In life, the more knowledgeable and capable the person is, the more they understand the value of humility and learn the art of bowing their head. In Japanese culture, the saying "a ripened ear of rice bows its head" serves as a guiding principle for social etiquette. Bowing is not only an apology but also a greeting, a gesture of gratitude, and a sign of respect. Recently, a story about the CEO of a gas station in Hanoi went viral. Despite his high social status, he stood in the rain bowing to invite and thank customers. His gesture surprised many Vietnamese people, who often associate bowing with submission or inferiority. However, in Japanese culture, bowing is a common practice, a way to show respect in any situation. Another story from ancient Greece illustrates this idea. When someone asked Socrates about the distance between heaven and earth, he replied simply, 3 feet. The person, confused, asked for clarification. Socrates explained, anyone taller than 3 feet must bow their head to stand firmly between heaven and earth. This story reminds us that bowing the head is not a sign of submission or weakness, but a mark of humility, an acknowledgement of one's place, a willingness to learn, and a pathway to growth. In life, many people strive to rise above others, seeking fame and status. Yet, those who achieve true success understand the importance of humility. They recognize that success isn't just about asserting oneself, but also about accepting and learning from others. The more talent one has, the greater the need for humility. Abraham Lincoln, the renowned U.S. president, is a prime example. Throughout his life, he faced countless failures and hardships. Yet, his perseverance and humility helped him overcome adversity. Despite his setbacks, he remained steadfast in his political pursuits, eventually becoming one of the greatest presidents in American history. Lincoln once said, "All the good we have today is not the result of any single person's guidance, but the precious gifts bestowed upon us by God." Bowing the head does not encourage servility or submission. Instead, it reminds us that humility is an essential virtue for personal growth. Young people, brimming with enthusiasm and ambition, often lack humility, becoming arrogant or dismissive of others' achievements. We must learn to bow our heads, respect others, and elevate ourselves through humility. Humility is not a weakness but a strength. It allows us to navigate life with wisdom, respect, and the ability to grow into better versions of ourselves. Story 9: Two Pebbles, Facing a Difficult Choice. A Jewish girl devised an ingenious solution to save her father and free herself from the schemes of a cunning landlord. This story once again highlights the intelligence often attributed to the Jewish people. In a Jewish village, a farmer found himself burdened with a large debt to the local landlord. The landlord, though old and unattractive, harbored a desire to marry the farmer's young and beautiful daughter. Seizing the opportunity, he proposed a deal. "I'll forgive your debt if I can marry your daughter," he said. To make his offer appear fair, the landlord suggested a game. He explained that he would place one black pebble and one white pebble into an empty pouch. The girl would then choose one. If she picked the black pebble, she would marry the landlord, and her father's debt would be forgiven. If she picked the white pebble, she would not have to marry the landlord, and her father's debt would still be forgiven. If she refused to choose, her father would be thrown into prison. The situation unfolded on a pebble-covered path near the farmer's garden. As the landlord stooped down to pick up two pebbles, the sharp-eyed girl noticed that he placed two black pebbles into the pouch. Standing before a seemingly impossible choice, the girl came up with a brilliant solution. She reached into the pouch and drew out a pebble, making sure no one could see it. Then, she accidentally dropped it onto the path, where it blended with the other pebbles. Feigning embarrassment, she said, "Oh no, how clumsy of me. But don't worry, we can still figure out which pebble I picked. Simply look at the one left in the pouch, it must be the opposite color." Of course, the remaining pebble was black. By default, the pebble she had chosen was deemed white. The landlord, unable to admit his dishonesty, was forced to honor his promise and forgive the farmer's debt. This tale illustrates the power of quick thinking and creative problem solving. Confronted with an unfair and difficult situation, the girl managed to outwit the landlord using a simple yet clever tactic. It reminds us that most of life's complex problems can often be resolved with a fresh perspective and a creative approach. By changing how we think and tackle challenges, we can transform even the most difficult situations to our advantage. Story 10: The Apple by the River and Life's Choices. This story teaches a valuable lesson about choices and how we face challenges in life. In a temple, a wise old monk was known for teaching his disciples life's principles, particularly how to handle difficulties. One day, the monk called his disciples together and instructed them to go up the mountain to collect firewood for the temple. As they set out, they encountered an unexpected obstacle. Torrential floods rushed down from the mountain, turning the rivers into dangerously swift currents. In this situation, crossing the river became impossible. Disheartened and worried, most of the disciples returned to the temple, feeling powerless and frustrated about not being able to complete their task. However, among them was a young novice monk who remained calm and composed. Unlike the others, he didn't return to the temple but instead stood before his master without any sign of panic. The master noticed this and asked, "Why didn't you return to the temple like the others? Don't you know it's impossible to cross the river?" The young monk smiled and replied, "Master, I realized I couldn't cross the river, so I couldn't collect firewood. But when I saw an apple tree by the riverbank, I picked the only apple on the tree and brought it back. Even though I couldn't cross the river, I found another way to resolve the situation." He handed the apple to the monk, explaining that although he hadn't fulfilled the original task, he had discovered an alternative solution. He didn't let himself be trapped by an insurmountable challenge, but instead found another way, even if it wasn't part of the initial plan. This story imparts a profound lesson. In life, we can't always follow the paths we've laid out. Sometimes, there are rivers we cannot cross and challenges we cannot overcome through conventional means. True wisdom and clarity come not from forcing ourselves to conquer the impossible, but from pausing, reassessing, and finding alternative solutions. Sometimes, simple and clever actions, like picking an apple by the river, can lead to success and satisfaction. The lesson of this story is that when faced with challenges, don't rush to give up or surrender. Look at the situation from a different perspective, find creative ways to resolve it, and remember that even small, thoughtful choices can lead to great outcomes. In life, whenever you face difficulty, learn to find opportunities in adversity instead of focusing solely on what cannot be done. Story 11: The Pear Tree and a Father's Lesson. This story provides a profound lesson about patience and gaining a comprehensive perspective on life. A father with 4 sons wanted to teach them not to judge things hastily based on appearances. To do this, he gave each son the task of observing a pear tree far from their home, with each assigned to observe it during a different season. The eldest son was sent in winter. After seeing the pear tree, he frowned and said, "This tree is so ugly, crooked, and bare. It looks miserable." The second son, who observed the tree in spring, disagreed and said, "No, that's not true. The pear tree is covered in fresh green buds, full of promise and hope. It feels like the beginning of something beautiful." The third son, who saw the tree in summer, also disagreed, saying, "The pear tree in summer is wonderful. It's adorned with sweet, delicate flowers. It's the most elegant thing I've ever seen." Finally, the youngest son, who observed the tree in autumn, contradicted all the previous opinions, saying, "The pear tree in autumn is truly amazing. It's laden with ripe fruit, radiating vitality and clear accomplishments. This is when the tree showcases its full strength and achievements." After hearing his son's observations, the father smiled and explained, "You are all correct, but each of you only saw the pear tree during one particular season of its life. You cannot judge the tree, or its essence, based on just one season. Similarly, the joys, love, and achievements in a person's life can only be measured after all 4 seasons have passed. If you give up when winter arrives, you'll miss the beauty and promise of spring, the vibrancy of summer, and the sweet rewards of autumn." He continued, "Don't let the pain of one season destroy the joy and hope of the others. Life is a long journey, and hardships and challenges are only small parts of the whole. Persevere through difficult times, for the good moments will eventually come." This story is a reminder of patience and a deeper perspective on life. Don't judge life or yourself based on a single difficult phase. Only by persevering and refusing to give up can you witness change, growth, and the rewards of constant effort. The true beauty of life is revealed only when you see the full picture after all 4 seasons have passed. Story 12: Honesty in Communication and Business. When I was young, my grandfather often taught me profound lessons about how to conduct myself in life. One day, as I started learning to sell small items at the market, he called me aside and said, "The product is important, but trust is what you're really selling. If you rely on exaggerated advertisements, customers will stop trusting you. People may be attracted by flowery words the first time, but if they find it untrue, they won't return for a second." He always emphasized that honesty is the key to building trust and sustaining any endeavor. He advised me to use sincere and simple words instead of embellishing or exaggerating products to attract buyers. He said, "Let your actions and the quality of your work speak for themselves. Promise only what you can deliver, or even better, deliver more than you promise. If you say 9 but deliver 10, people will respect you. But if you say 10 and deliver 9, they'll laugh and criticize. I remember once, at my small fruit stall, I was selling several baskets of fruit. A woman came by, asking for prices and wanting to buy the largest fruits in the basket. I hesitated, tempted to pick the ones that looked good on the outside but might have slight bruises inside. At that moment, I remembered my grandfather's words. Instead of doing so, I told her honestly, "Ma'am, these fruits look great on the outside, but they might not be as good inside. You can choose others, or I can offer you a discount if you still want these." The woman looked at me for a moment and then smiled. "I appreciate your honesty. All right, I trust you. Pick the ones you think are worth the price for me." From that day on, she became a loyal customer and even recommended her friends to buy from me. My grandfather's lessons weren't just about selling but also applied to daily interactions. He always said, "Honesty is the strongest bridge between people." Whether it's with friends, partners, or customers, trust is the most valuable asset you can build. These simple teachings became a guiding principle for me, not just in business but also in life. I've learned that honesty doesn't just build trust, it also earns respect and lasting relationships with those around you. Story 13. Love given rightly always bears sweet fruit. Hong was a quiet woman living in a small village. No one paid much attention to her, and her name was rarely mentioned until the news of her pregnancy spread throughout the village. Rumors flew, and people speculated endlessly, but no one knew who the father was. It all began on a stormy night. As Hong sat in her ramshackle house, there was a knock at the door. Nervously, she opened it to find a soaking wet, exhausted man collapsing on her doorstep. She quickly brought him inside, dried him off, and cared for him. That night, in their loneliness and yearning, two lost souls found solace in each other. By morning, the man had gone, leaving behind only the image of a long scar above his left eyebrow, etched in Hong's memory. As Hong's belly grew, so did the whispers and gossip in the village. People mocked her, criticized her, and some even came to her house to stir up trouble. But Hong stood firm, defending herself and the child growing inside her. "If anyone dares to harass me further, I'll report it to the authorities. My life has nothing to do with yours, and I'll raise my child with everything I have," she said resolutely. The night finally came when Hong gave birth to her child, a moonless and starless evening. Thanks to a kind neighbor who called for a midwife, Hong safely delivered a healthy baby boy. She named him Bao Duk, hoping he would grow up to be her pride and joy. Duk grew up under his mother's diligent care. Hong took on every job she could, from farming to sewing, to ensure her son could attend school. Though mocked by his peers as fatherless, Duk stood strong and defended himself. Once, when two classmates teased him, Duk responded confidently, "I don't have a father, but I'm proud my mother gave me life. If you're so great, beat me in school, then we'll talk." Thanks to his hard work, Duk consistently excelled in class and earned the admiration of his teachers. His homeroom teacher, Mai, not only taught him but also listened to and encouraged him during life's challenges. As time passed, Duk grew into a skilled surgeon at the provincial hospital. One day, he received an urgent call informing him that Quan, Mai's husband, had been in a severe accident and was in critical condition. Rushing to the hospital, Duk donated blood to save Quan, as their blood types were a match. After Quan stabilized, Mai came to thank Duk. However, when Hong arrived to visit the patient, she froze at the door, her handbag slipping from her grasp. She couldn't hold back her tears as she saw the long scar above Quan's left eyebrow. That night, Hong called Duk. "Son," she said, her voice trembling, "I need to tell you something important. Mai's husband, he is your father. Neither of us knew this before now." I'm sorry for keeping this secret from you all these years. Duke stood still, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. He stood outside the hospital room where Ma was tending to her husband. From a distance, Ma gently said, "Duke, your father is waiting for you." Overwhelmed with emotion, Duke stepped into the room and looked at the man who had unknowingly been absent from his and his mother's life for so many years. His heart was filled with gratitude for his mother, a woman who had sacrificed everything to give him the life he had today. Under the soft rays of the setting sun, Duke realized that, despite the storms his family had endured, love given rightly always has the power to bear sweet fruits in life. Story 14. The Principle of Goodness, Better to be deceived than to deceive others. Kindness is a precious virtue, a guiding light for those who prioritize the well-being of others over themselves. In the story of Dao Tuong from the Song Dynasty, we find a profound lesson on morality and the power of goodness. Better to suffer loss than to harm others. Dao Tuong was the owner of a fabric dyeing shop. One day, a man brought him a batch of vibrant purple dyegrass. Thrilled by its beautiful color, Dao Tuong immediately bought it for 4 million copper coins, thinking he had acquired high-quality materials. A few days later, a savvy customer visited the shop and saw the batch of dyegrass. The customer remarked, "This is inferior dyegrass. It looks like high-quality material, but it's useless and won't dye fabric properly." Unconvinced, Dao Tuong decided to test the grass himself. To his dismay, the customer was right, it was indeed worthless. The customer then offered to help Dao Tuong sell the batch to smaller dye shops to recoup some of his losses. However, after a night of contemplation, Dao Tuong chose to do the opposite. He declared, "I would rather be deceived myself than deceive others. If I sell this batch, I will be no different from the person who tricked me." With that, Dao Tuong burned the entire batch of dyegrass, even though it cost him nearly all of his assets. The power of kindness. Despite his great loss, Dao Tuong never regretted his decision. His conscience helped him distinguish right from wrong. He chose integrity, refusing to harm others for personal gain. Miraculously, after this incident, his business gradually flourished. Word of his honesty spread, and more people began trusting and frequenting his shop. Before long, he became a wealthy merchant, with his descendants enjoying prosperity for generations. Enduring loss is a blessing. Dao Tuong's story brings to mind an ancient saying, "Enduring loss and hardship is a form of blessing." Before passing away, a kind-hearted father left a piece of advice for his children. Remember just 4 words: learn to endure loss. Knowing how to endure is knowing how to cultivate virtue. Life is like a grand chessboard. Sometimes, you make a move that seems disadvantageous, but in reality, it is building strength for the future. Those who are kind-hearted may endure hardship in the short term, but blessings always await them down the road. The story of Dao Tuong teaches us that kindness not only brings peace to the soul, but also lays the foundation for lasting happiness. The kind-hearted never fear loss because they understand that what they give today will return to them in another form. Remember, a kind heart creates blessings, and great blessings illuminate the future. Living with kindness is the way to build a happy life, not only for yourself, but also for those around you. Story 15. Sow in spring, reap in summer. Life is like the 4 seasons: sowing seeds in spring, bearing fruit in summer, harvesting in autumn, and storing provisions in winter. Through trials and challenges, we grow and come to understand the value of happiness. However, not everyone easily accepts the pain that life brings. This story serves as a reminder of how to face difficulties and the importance of perseverance. Pain is not always an enemy. In North Carolina, USA, there was a young girl who never felt pain. To many, This might seem like a strange gift. In reality, it brought her countless challenges. She often suffered burns or dislocated joints without realizing it. Without the ability to feel pain, her body lacked the warning signals to alert her to injuries, which could lead to severe consequences, even death. Her story teaches us pain is not always an enemy. Sometimes, it is a friend that helps us recognize what needs to change and improve. The Farmer's Fable and the Lesson of Adaptability. During the Warring States period in the state of Zheng, there was a farmer who decided to learn the craft of making umbrellas. He spent 3 years mastering the skill, but just as he finished crafting his finest umbrellas, a drought occurred, and no one needed them. Undeterred, he turned to learning how to make water buckets. After 3 more years of hard work, a flood struck, and no one required buckets. Persevering still, he returned to making umbrellas, but by then, people had begun using military capes as raincoats, rendering his umbrellas useless once again. Finally, he decided to learn weapon forging for self-defense. However, by the time he became proficient, he was too old and weak to work effectively. The meaning of hardship and destiny. In life, everyone wishes for smooth sailing, but in reality, challenges are the lessons that help us grow. Hardships may result from past missteps. According to the law of cause and effect, living with envy or resentment will perpetuate misfortune. Conversely, living with kindness and acting according to conscience will gradually improve one's destiny. Life is like the 4 seasons of nature. Plum blossoms bloom in spring, but only after enduring the bitter cold of winter. Similarly, humans must face and overcome adversity to achieve true happiness. Reaping rewards after hardship. Hardship is not merely a challenge, it is an opportunity to reflect on oneself, understand others, and cultivate patience. Life is a long journey, and each trial carries its own unique meaning. As the song goes, life originates from the heavens above. Only by choosing to live righteously, accumulating virtue, and practicing kindness can we move toward eternity. This story teaches us suffering is a part of life. Instead of avoiding it, embrace it as a lesson for growth. Don't chase circumstances, hold firm to your core values, and act with clear purpose. Live virtuously and patiently. Only by planting seeds of goodness in the spring of life can we reap sweet fruits in the autumn. Remember, every hardship is an opportunity to rise, grow, and transform life into a meaningful journey. Story 16. In prosperity, avoid excess. In adversity, uphold integrity. 1,000 years ago, during the Northern Song dynasty, the Chancellor Lu Mengzhang left behind a masterpiece of prose titled Fa Du Fu, Breaking the Kiln. Despite the passage of centuries, the profound teachings in this work remained timeless and highly relevant to modern life. The essay is not only a literary gem but also a treasure trove of philosophical wisdom. Through rich metaphors, Lu Mengzhang imparts a powerful lesson. In times of wealth, do not indulge in excess. In times of poverty, never abandon integrity. Lu Mengzhang begins by comparing life to the unpredictable weather. The skies have their storms, the earth its droughts, human joys and sorrows are but the cycles of nature. He highlights that no matter how lofty one's ideals, without the right opportunity, it is difficult to achieve greatness. He illustrates his point with historical examples. Confucius, though a sage, was once besieged in the state of Qin. Jiang, a master strategist and warrior, had to bide his time fishing by the Wei River until his moment arrived. Han Xian, who endured hunger and humiliation in his youth, rose to become a great general commanding the empire, though he ultimately fell victim to political intrigue. These stories demonstrate some are wealthy before becoming poor, some fail in youth only to succeed later, and others with great talent must remain in obscurity, all depend on the tides of time and destiny. A call for integrity in all circumstances. The essay emphasizes that, regardless of circumstances, one must maintain noble qualities. In prosperity, avoid living extravagantly or becoming consumed by indulgence. In adversity, uphold integrity and self-respect. As Lu Mengjiang writes, a noble person may wear tattered clothes, yet they uphold etiquette and virtue. A petty person, no matter how wealthy, remains poor in spirit. The cycles of nature, like the changes in fortune, offer opportunities for transformation. But only by preserving character and integrity can one truly take charge of their life. Lu Mengjiang's own story. Lu Mengjiang concludes with his own experiences. From eating thin porridge and living in a cold, damp cave, he rose to become a chancellor, favored by the emperor and respected by officials. Yet he humbly admits, I am not a person of great talent, merely one blessed with good fortune. He advises, in prosperity, do not indulge in excess. In adversity, do not abandon integrity. Simply attune yourself to the cycles of nature, and one day, your moment to rise will come. Lu Mengjiang's story is not just a lesson in character, but a reminder that while fortunes may change, integrity and humanity must remain constant. In today's society, this lesson remains invaluable, guiding us to maintain balance amidst temptations and challenges. It teaches us how to live a life worthy of respect, not only from others, but also from ourselves. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the time to listen to this story. Wishing you patience and deep insight to overcome all the challenges life may bring. Remember, everything can change, and the beautiful seasons will arrive if you persevere. Goodbye for now, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.